Sikhahleli icapha kunyaka omusha sithi nje hello sawubona mbukeli, welcome to this week's edition of Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right, wishing you all a happy 2020. Hey mbukeli, isimo somnotho esintengantengayo ke isona esenza ukuthi unyaka ka2019 uthanda ukuthi ukuba nzima kubathengi. Engabe kodwa lo nyaka omusha ke ngabe usiphatheleni ngebhadim today mbukeli, we are not live so we will not be able to take your calls, but do send us your comments on Facebook. Mina ke ngikuMangcolosi uShongololo uMajalu Alisha igama phansi amanzi imtoti ngithi happy new year mbukeli, asingene shiqe odabeni lethu la namhlanje. Imisebenzi biyimvela kancane kakhulu kulonyaka odlule. Isibalo sabantu abaswele imisebenzi siqhubekile futhi siyenyuka. Sidalwa phela ukudiliza kwabantu emsebenzini. Lokhu ke kube nomthelela eminingi efana lokuthi phela abantu bangabe basakwazi ukumelana nezikweleti zabo, ukukhuphuka kwentengiso kapetroli, ugesi, amanzi nezinye izinto kufana nokudla nokuningi babukeli obekubalulekile empilweni. Ingabe ke singenza njani ukumelana nalonyaka ka2020 ukuya phambili? Manje ke usicacisela kabanzi ukuthi mbukeli singalindelani kulonyaka ngezomnotho. Asamukele uMr Lee Subrati, yena ke ovela eCredit Ombudsman. Sinaye noNosipho Zikishi intokazi, yena ke niyayazi vele kwiNational Credit Regulator. Siphinde futhi samukele nesishoshovi senu enisithandayo samalungelo enu bathengi. Ngikhuluma ngayo babu Elias Shamatla, yena kuvela ke eMarefi Consulting. Lady and gentlemen, happy 2020. Welcome to the show. Let's start with you, Lee.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us. Happy New Year.
To you as well.
Lee, you said you were not happy because you just finished your bonus.
Yeah,
So
we are at that point of the year where my bonus has just been finished basing on my splurge.
oh
so
my goodness. So I'm not going to get that big smile today.
I'll try my best.
Oh my goodness. Sis Nosipho, when did you spend the bonus yakho?
Hayi sispende kahle kaloku abantwana baye esikolweni.
Wama-uniform
So
athengiwe.
ama-uniform funeka ethengiwe ngalo bonus, so iba ncinci ke.
Iba ncinci. But Elias sebebaningi sebebangakanani abafike kwena sebekhala bethi hey but Elias ngeke izikweletu manje abantwana sisakhona ukukhokha izikweletu nje sisaqala unyaka sebekufonela.
Yes, who be?
Hayi bokubi kangaka.
Sis Alicia, what December, and everybody has spent money. It was nice, it was lovely.
Yeah.
And some of our people, or some of us, renane or budgeted enough, only to find that we have overspent. Now January is catching up with us.
Yo. Maybe Lee, let's talk about 2019. I mean, it was a terrible year economically.
Yes,
I mean, maybe outline what were some of the biggest challenges that were faced by consumers, particularly when it came to their debts.
I mean, if we bear testament to the midterm budget that was carried forward in 2019,
Yeah.
I mean, our minister was clear. He said people have become poor. There's retrenchments. There's high rising costs with fuel, with the
highest unemployment figures
exactly,
in years,
exactly,
in history, in fact.
Exactly, and now we're dealing with a space where people have come out of 2019. I mean, us winning the Rugby World Cup did obviously give us some sort of confidence and a boost. But we've got to ask ourselves, I mean, are consumers doing enough to safeguard themselves? Are they making prudent decisions? I mean, there was a comment that was made in the midterm budget speech that our minister referred to, that was spoken by our president, that the policy that needs to be adopted is prudent borrowing, stringent expenditure management in order to address the predicament that the country finds itself. Because the country is not doing well from an economic point of view. And I mean, consumers just need to obviously tighten up. I mean, coming from a space of December where people work hard. Let's get back to ground. People work hard. They feel at the point of the year in December, Christmas time, they want to spoil their friends, they want to spoil their families, they want to spoil themselves. But the problem is, spoiling yourself is not the issue. The problem is, can you afford it? And can you afford the January, the hashtag that goes around, the January that happens when you have to pay back the debt?
Can people afford the January? Benza njani manje?
Maniqale ngama figures ethu June 2019, last figures that were published. Isibonisa isimo se-consumer eSouth Africa. Kwi-bureau data esifumeneyo, 25 million consumers are credit active. Yes. Ne? Out of that credit active 25 million, 24 are in good standing, and then 14 I think bane adverse information ngaba bangakwazi ke ngokubhatala amatyala abo. It could be worse, but based kwisimo esisibonileyo ama consumers ayabhatala kakuhle. Aba struggleayo ukubhatala ngaba ba 11 million ke.
11 million ixakwa yintoni ukubhadala ama debts wabo sisinosipho?
Le 11 million siyakwazi ke ngokuyihlengahlengisa. Kule 11 million kukho abo ba under debt review.
Yes.
Not that they can't pay, but because ba under debt review
Kushintsha isimo either somsebenzi semali.
Kule 11 million kuphinde kube khona abo ke ngoku ba strugglishayo ukubhatala, but mhlawumbe bana 3 months arrears, but
okay.
isimo sabo asika abakaxakwa sisimo sabo. Then kubekho ke ngoku kwa 11 million xa sesisplitter kubekho ke ngoku aba bangabhataliyo at all. Kubo ke mhlawumbe zi-circumstances because sibonile ukuthi retrenchment rate inyukile kunyaka ophelileyo. So abanye ke mhlambe bengenazo neza retrenchment packages ne credit life insurance ebizakwazi ubancedisa ibhatale amatyala abo so that bangabikho kwi-bad listing kuma bureau systems ethu. So sibonile mani consumer iye ya struggleisha kunyaka ophelileyo, but zikhona i-mechanisms ezifakiweyo for la 11 million strugglishayo.
But Elias, when I mean, let's get rid of 2019 ngokuthi su assess. In terms of your findings, nabantu osebenza nabo on a daily basis, how bad was it on the consumer?
It was because, remember now, if your family members lose their jobs, now it becomes your responsibility.
Yes.
Because you have to take care of their children, school fees, uniforms and so forth. And then it becomes a burden to you. Because obviously, if you are the eldest in the family, or you are the only one that's working in the family,
You're the breadwinner.
You are the breadwinner. You have to take care of all these families now, and now
on one income.
On one income.
It's not even enough.
Yes, but then some of them, they have found ways of making money for themselves.
Kanjani, bra?
Like, for example, the issue of buying and selling.
Okay.
The commodities. Some of them, they can buy cars from the auctions and resell. Some buy, the handbags, the goodies that we normally use on a daily basis and make money out of that. And some of them have joined the social savings clubs, whereby they club in together, save money. Yes, the legit ones,
Yes.
And then they make decent incomes there, and then they are able to take care of their household expenses.
So basically, bavuga bantu to the fact that you don't always need to wait for a salary. You must actually do something to actually help the bulk of the money that you receive. Mbugeli uyezwage now, out of 25 million credit active consumers, kutiwa effort about 14 million or 11 million bastruglisha ngama debts wabo. Uthola ukuthi these were mitigating factors with the fact that abantu badiliziwe emsebenzini last year. We saw strikes nazo zonke lezo zinto. But right now, let's take a quick ad break. Sibona ukuthi singakusiza ngani ukuthi wena unavigate njengoba siqala unyaka. If you have that little still saved up, yini ongayenza to ensure ukuthi the kids go to school. There is food in those stomachs, because siyazi sonke ukuthi cha akekho ozoperforma isisu mesi empty. We're coming back shortly after this. Welcome back. We're still talking about what a hard year 2019 was and how you can navigate 2020 financially due to lama economic stresses esiwabonayo, because asikakazi ngempela ukuthi umnotho wethu uzothini qhubeka ngebhizinisi nemsebenzi, how it's all going to fare going down the line. I'm sitting with us Nosipho Zekishe, Ubabu Elias Shamadla, and of course Uliso Brati, and we are deliberating some of the ways that you can also cushion yourself against being indebted. So Lee, tell us what were some of the initial or most of the complaints that you received, particularly around debts in 2019, and have these people then found a way to ensure that they don't fall in the same pattern of being indebted in this year?
So I'm going to give you a bit of perspective of when a complaint reaches the office. So we have consumers who unfortunately, we live at a time where consumers want to complain when they need something, unfortunately.
That's true. We wait until it's too late.
And we normally find a spike between, I would say, just after January towards the New Year's, because it's at that time you want to apply for credit.
So you're going to be busy at this time of the year?
Yes, most probably. I mean, we are making means of attending to the increase in disputes and so forth, because a consumer will come to us in a normal day. They'll approach and say, listen, Mr. Credit Ombud, I have an account that I can't afford to pay. Even though I couldn't afford to pay that account, I went to ABC bank or credit provider, and they don't want to grant me this loan in order for me to take care of my family for Christmas, for example. Because you see, your credit information, and part of what we do is that we assess that the credit information, your credit profile, is reflecting correctly.
Yes.
Because that is your credit identity in the credit world. If you go apply for credit, they're going to use that as your CV, so to speak, to say, listen, can Mr. ABC pay this account? Does he have the propensity to pay it back? How has he defaulted in the past? Now, the misconception of consumers is that blacklisting information, for example, they interpret blacklisting information to be information that's only an adverse listing or only a judgment. For example, my colleague spoke about being in arrears 1 to 2 months in arrears. The fact is that when you're 1 month in arrears, it will reflect on your credit report. And if they see that, it reflects on how you are as a consumer. So what we've seen in the last couple of months is that consumers are coming to us quite frequently with questions about how can I clean up my credit account? And then from there, we try to move into the conversation to ask them, listen, how are your finances? How have you been managing your finances? Are you sure that the purchase that you want to make, is it something that you need? Is it something that you want? Is it something that your family needs? It's because you must understand, when we speak to our consumers, we have to have we have to be proactive in advising them and telling them, listen, we may resolve the dispute for you now, and the information may reflect correctly as it's supposed to. But once you make that purchase, what's going to happen in January, February, March, next year when you need to pay back the funds? Because, I mean, we see it in the media, we see it in the news, consumers they lose their assets on a daily basis. Cars are being attached, houses are being attached, people are losing their place of shelter, the place where they find comfort. Now, you are, as a consumer, at risk of losing all of these things if you don't manage your finances correctly. So this is what we deal with. We assess the accounts to make sure that the interest charge is correct, that the outstanding balances are correct. But most of all, consumers come to us to resolve a dispute, but at the same time to sort of reshape their profiles to ensure, I mean, let's be honest. When a consumer approaches, they want us to clean their credit report, which we cannot do. The purpose of the Ombud is to ensure that the information is reflecting correctly. But most of all is making sure that they know what the term, or rather what the phrase reflecting correctly means. And that's misinterpreted a lot.
All right. When I put LS, are you finding ukuthi abantu beza kuwena ahead of time, ahead of ukuthi babe senkingeni enkulu?
Normally after.
Normally after
effect.
sekubheda sekunzima.
Last year, on the second week of November 2019, we have seen the media release from the banking ombud.
Yes.
Whereby she said she received about over 5,000 complaints from the consumers, of which out of those 5,000 complaints, 2,300 are the consumers that were complaining about exorbitant bank charges. So she investigated these complaints with the particular banks, and they found that the banks indeed overcharged the consumers. And that's why she said we must check our bank statements.
I remember that article as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she went further to say the banks blamed the systems or human error. They call it maladministration. So in other words, you can be paying more than what you are supposed to pay because of the bank's fault.
So Sinosipho, then uma uyithola ukulenkinga ke, then indlela yakho yakuphi? Because what if that lands you in indebtedness, of which now you have to deal with actively, ukuthi uhambe uqale kwi-credit ombud ukuthi or ezekunini ukuthi nimsize ukuthi abhadale lesikweleti angasazi ngempela?
Sis Alicia inyani late ethwayo abantu fune balinda de babe sengxakini ukuze bayofuna uncedo. I think i-consumers zethu okanye thina bathenga sikafiki kwi-situation where uthathe ownership ye-information yakho.
We don't.
Uthathe ownership ye-finances zakho.
We don't.
Before ube ungena engxakini. So i-National Credit Act yona umsebenzi wethu yobangaba si-educate i-consumers. I-education sis Alicia siyayenza. Iphinde ke ngoku i-National Credit Act ukuprotecta ama-consumers kwi-rights zabo xa beku-situation egqiba uthethwa ngutata u-Elias ngoku. Kodwa ke into esinoyithetha ngoku sis-Alicia yeyobangaba i-consumers noba siyenza i-education xa ungazi ingaske uyobuza kwicandelo elingakwazi ukukunceda, such as awuzuchargewa yi-credit ombud, awuzuchargewa yi-NCR. Zikhona mechanisms where you can be assisted as umthengi. So funeke uthathe ownership. Asiyazi basizayi-instilla njani la principle of taking ownership of i-finances zakho ne-knowledge. When you don't know, go ask. So asiyazi basingafikelela, sikwazi ufikelela kwabo bazile kuthi, but kube seku-late for bona. But ukuya i-education siyayenza. So I think mhlambi kodwa ke icandelo elilungelo lakho liyanceda ukuba ngaba sikwazi ukunikeza i-information kwabo bantu bangakwaziyo.
Absolutely. Now, Lee, I mean, I was looking at the stats last year and I was very surprised to notice that in light of the economic constraints, the house and car sales actually went down. But where are you finding that the bulk of the indebtedness is at? Is it the cars, the houses? Where are people just struggling to pay their debts?
Yeah, so as the Ombud, we can only relate to the disputes that we receive. But from what we see, it's less the mortgage loans, it's less the vehicles, but it's more the day-to-day finance. And, and one of the issues is a sort of a payday loan. So what consumers are getting into the habit, and it's a habit that we need to get out of, is, for example, I get paid today, let's say on the 25th. But in a week's time, I've got to take a payday loan in order to feed my family. I've got to take a payday loan in order to do something in the family, or in order to pay off an additional debt. What we find is consumers often use one card to pay off another card, and so the sort of circle, it's a rotation of debt.
Yeah.
And I mean, shockingly, from the stats, from the Credit Bureau Monitor stats, there's been 748,000 inquiries for that quarter on credit. Wow. But what was shocking is not the number, it's an increase. So it's 97% increase from year on year and 23% increase on quarter, which shows that people who can't afford the debt in the first quarter now taking debt to settle their requirements in the second quarter.
And also they're probably going to the wrong places to get those monies, like the mashonisas, which puts them in further debt.
Exactly, because there is, I mean, the National Credit came with its stringent lending measures of trying to curb reckless lending. But it's not only the credit provider who has the responsibility. The consumer themselves have to take the prudent responsibility to ensure that they can afford the debt. Because, I mean, credit is something that can be good for the economy. At the same time, it can be bad if it goes into bad debt. But it's up to the consumer to ensure that not only if they can, because, I mean, let's face it, we all have to buy houses, we all have to buy cars, we all obviously have to buy clothes to put on our backs at the end of the day, and it's not something we can afford with cash. Credit is a good thing, but it needs to be managed in the right way. Because you have to ensure that you can afford that installment over the next 6 months. Because if you don't, it's going to affect you negatively.
I hope ukuthi uyezwa-ke lapho kuthiwa ungathathi isikweletu ongeke uzukwazi ukusikhokha, particularly muwazi ukuthi isimo sakho siyantengantenga mayelana nezemali okanye ezomsebenzi, or if you're just not sure ukuthi kwenzakalani. We're talking about things like abantu abasebenza ngama-gig khona lana, abantu abangazi ukuthi where their next salary is going to come from. So labo bantu are even more financial constraints because awazi ukuthi how you're going to put your next meal on the table. So try and have the little that you have, make it go farther. Mbukeli, asiphinda sithi shalele ngaseyitolo. Ilungelo lakho liyabuya more of amalungelo akho. Welcome back to Yilungelo Lakho 2020. Mbukeli, we're looking at how this year is going to fare economically. Nokuthi wena uzoperforma kanjani in terms of ama-debts wakho nezinto ekumele uzenze. Ngehlelelana nesishoshovi samalungelo abantu ubaba Elias Shamatla. Intokazi usisiNosipho Zikisha, of course, i-credit ombud ubaba Lee Subrati. Now, Lee, you spoke about something very profound before we left the break, and maybe could you give us some more detail here? We've heard a lot of cases when it comes to creditors, credit providers, giving consumers, engaging with consumers on reckless lending. How do you then deal with that? Because if you find that in this case that the consumer wasn't able to afford the debt, an affordability assessment wasn't necessarily done, and this consumer now finds themselves in debt, how do you then deal with those issues and reports?
Yeah, I mean, we have various consumers come approaching the office, obviously, of complaints of reckless lending.
Yeah.
That I was desperate for the money, but the credit provider took advantage of me in that instance. Remember, as an ombud, we have to remain impartial.
Yes.
We're neither for the consumer nor credit provider. We're an objective body to assess if processes have been followed.
Absolutely.
And the National Credit Act is there. We know that in 2015, the National Credit Act introduced affordability mechanisms and a minimum expense norm.
Yes.
To say, listen, because let's face it, as a consumer, if I'm desperate for funds, there may be funds that either that I don't remember at the time or expenses that I don't remember at the time that I don't obviously divulge that may affect my affordability. So the National Credit Act provides a minimum expense norm, which says, listen, that if your expenses are too low, there's a figure that the credit provider has to use as an expense figure regardless. And then, of course, if your expenses are higher, then they are to take your expenses as the figure. So at the same time, the Act provides a defense for the credit provider to say, listen, that a consumer must act truthfully and honestly in their dealings. As a consumer, there's nothing preventing you from applying for credit. But we urge and we tell consumers and we literally beg them to tell them, listen, when you're applying for credit, make sure you're honest in what you tell them. Tell them about the 3 loaves of bread that you buy on a weekly basis. Tell them about the 2 bottles of milk that you buy. Tell them about the friend that you take for coffee. Exactly. because these expenses are not reflected on your bank statement most of the time. It's not reflected on your credit report. So a credit provider is just left to assess what they have in front of them, what they can access to the bureaus.
So we need to be totally honest.
Honest, exactly, and prudent, essentially. So, aside from honesty, as a consumer, you need to list and say, listen, I do intend on buying this asset, but what is my disposable income? And you've got to take into account the nitty-gritties, for example, even the weekly trip to the ice cream shop, for example, can go into hundreds of rands these days. The supper today with a family can go into 1,500 rands in some cases. Yeah. But that directly affects your income. And we know the amount of consumers, the lower income consumers, they obviously are placed in a situation where they are now seeking other alternative forms of income, but at the same time, you have to have enough liquidity in order to facilitate that income.
That's true.
So it's about just being prudent, I guess. And then, I'm sort of divulging. So when a consumer approaches us, we contact the credit provider.
Yeah.
We ask them, listen, where's the affordability? Where's the requisite documents in order for you to substantiate the claims that the consumer is making? And I've got to be honest with you, the credit providers, they come to us, they give us this information, and we present it to the consumer. We tell the consumer, listen, if you are saying A, B, and C is not reflected in there, where's sort of how did you inform the credit provider of this? Where's that email that was sent? Where's the form that you took to them? But as the Ombud, we're here to engage with both parties to reach a place of mutual consensus, a place that is beneficial to both parties.
Absolutely.
Because, it's a non-litigation process.
Yeah.
So if we find an instance where a credit provider has erred and these things happen, we know we live in there's millions, there's 25 million credit active consumers. There's bound to be a situation where an agent that's representing somebody makes a mistake. It's bound to happen. So in that instance, what we do say, listen, that Mr. A, you've made the mistake, how do we now sort of correct it? And in many instances, we have certain providers that come to say, listen, we've made a mistake. We suggest let's write off the interest for that account. Okay. And let's write off the fees and let the consumer just pay back the capital. Because you remember, the consumer, in as much as they've been victim, obviously, to a reckless lending, they've gotten sort of enrichment from it. Yeah. So we don't want the credit provider, for example, just to lose out simply because they made a judgment error.
And also
it's about finding a balance between both parties.
All right.
That's the purpose of the office, yes.
All right. So, but Elias, mesikhuluma ngalezi zinto, which leads me to this next question, ukuthi if mhlambe leyo affordability assessment ayizange iziyenziwe or whatever, umuntu ufika kunina thini, nina nimsiza kanjani?
2 ways. It's either the consumer can go to the NCR and lodge a complaint against the credit provider for reckless lending. We have seen one bank actually coming to the party, writing off some of the debts. Okay. Whereby they realize that there is an element of reckless lending out of their own goodwill. Okay. Yeah, they just write off.
It's not a normal scenario, though.
For now, it's one bank that we see. No. Yes, but that's where they realize that actually we didn't do our job here.
Due diligence,
yes. And then I just wanted to go back to the issue of the mortgages before we skip that one. Yeah. And the vehicles. And everybody, you must invest in property. Everybody tells us that the properties appreciate in value. Yes. But what we have seen last year in 2019, most people who bought properties for investments, leasing them out, they found that in the areas whereby they bought the properties, the rental is less than the bond installment. So you have to top up. So in other words, this is no longer an investment to you, it's a liability. If you sell the property, you get less than what you are owing to the bank because you have to factor in the agent's commission. You have to factor in the cancellation costs to cancel the bond. And most of the properties, I remember one case in point, a medical doctor who bought 4 properties, right? So she wanted to sell these properties because she had to top up on all the properties.
Imagine that.
And she couldn't afford anymore. And each and every property had a shortfall. So we must be careful when we buy the properties for investments. Like, for example, if you go to Mhlanga in Durban, I don't think that is the best place to invest in.
Go on, but Elias.
Because the rentals there are around 10,000 rand or 8,000 rand.
No, we know it's very expensive there.
Not the rental, but the bond is 15,000 upwards.
Yeah.
Because you bought a property for 1.2 million rand. But now the going rent in that area is 10,000 rand, excluding the levies and rates and taxes. So the location of the property is key.
Okay.
So when coming to cars, the problem is if I want to get out of the car, I'm told that this car is worth 150,000. I'm owing the bank 400,000. What do I do? Understand? If I voluntarily surrender the vehicle, there's one particular credit provider of the cases that we dealt with. When there's a shortfall on the car, they sequestrate you. They go for sequestration. Right? So in other words, when they go for sequestration, they take everything that we have, including the kettle and the pot. And that's one of the German credit providers. That's what they do. You understand? So now you must be careful when you surrender the vehicle. What are the terms and conditions? You must negotiate for yourself to say, I surrender the vehicle. After this, I'm going to sign the acknowledgement of debt. I'm going to pay 200 rand a month. Okay. Because if you don't do that follow-up arrangement...
Because we've heard reports, Uguti, there were even some financing houses that were bullying consumers or telling them to voluntarily surrender their cars under the guise that, you know, they're just keeping your car up until you can catch up with your payments, when in actual retrospect, you leave your car there, your car is gone on auction the next day.
Unfortunately, they are my former colleagues. They do that on a daily basis. They still do it till today. Whereby they go there, they bully the customer to take the car. You understand? And sometimes, remember, they have to apply the tactics. The bank hands over the account to you to say, go and repossess this car.
Retrieve this car, yes.
If you come up with the story to say the customer said this and that, told you about his rights, then the bank asks you a question, what's your relevance? So you may as well use the sheriff. So when you kiss your job goodbye. Understand? So now you come up with the mechanisms on how to take this car. Sometimes they'll come to you with the camera to say, just switch on the engine. I just want to take the kilos on the vehicle. And then you switch on the car. He gets in, he locks the car, he drives off.
Hi. And we know yes. This is not legal. Because we know particularly around this time, because and those bank managers what do you call them, repo specialists, debt collectors, now they need to reach their targets. On a daily basis. So Yilungelo Lakho will be back with more shortly after this. Coping mechanisms ongaba now this year when it comes to debt yakho nokuthi wena financial life yakho uyiphatha kanjani. I'm still with the credit ombud ubabulisi Brati Insizwa Elias Shamatla nentokazi enhle uSisinosipho Zekesh. Sisinosipho, you hearing the gentlemen are talking here, but I mean asikhulume njengabafazi. I mean I saw depression levels increase last year, suicide levels. We're hearing young people dying of under like suspicious circumstances. circumstances uzosekuthiwa umuntu omncane ufile because of depression due to izinto, and when ulandela istory uzukuthi somewhere somehow this was connected to the fact that they couldn't service their debts or they couldn't support their families. So it did take an emotional toll to abantu abaningi eMzansi. How do we then try and fix that? Ngikuzwile uthi we can't change stereotypes abantu ukuthi bacabanga kanjani, but how do we then encourage these people to think about financial health?
I think one of the things as young people, okanye young people out there, or society is also suffering from a complexity ethile. When you are seen driving imoto at 2007, and yet there are people driving imoto at 2019 or 2020 now. Already no complexity, you know what, you feel the need, you must change that vehicle. You must catch up. So uguti complexities is in the way we need to overcome as a society, but iqala laphayana. Education, we as a regulator have now started to change the curriculum from a very young, I think, grade 8, to change the curriculum, where we've introduced a financial literacy as one of the curriculum current education system. Because we start there. You start building a financial literacy, and credit information, how to maintain a credit at a very young age. Industry itself, I think credit bureau industry, the national credit regulator as well, have been doing AMA workshops at the school level. Ezikolweni zabantwana to change that. So move, I guess we're starting there, but manje we need to catch up with adults as in now. Tinabantu badala, what is it that we are doing as well? I think even retail has changed by introduce some lay-bys. Why are you not exhausting those means? Instead of buying on credit impahla, go and lay-buy those shoes. Go lay-buy into zesikolo for abantwana. My uniform, go lay-buy. So even their retail is changing. The face is no longer trying to encourage abantu, but at unnecessarily credit, but at manja ama lay-buys. Even the furniture, they encourage abantu, but at ama lay-buy. It's not necessary that you enter into a credit agreement. Fanuguti now as a consumer, you re-evaluate, ubonuguti, why am I taking this credit? Siza kwindaba ye reckless lending. I-office yethu also receives as a regulator, and because thina sinawo ama powers ukuthi sibanqabe sibabambe ababantu sibadirejistare as credit providers once si ascertain ukuthi there is an element of reckless lending. Ama refunds i-office yethu nayo has been successful. Xa i-consumer ize kuthi ilodge a complaint, siyakwazi uresolve on behalf, sifumane i-informal resolution, i-refund will be done or the debt will be written off in those instances. Simove right along kule issue yokuthi why ama consumers ngoku athatha imoto akasathatha imoto and abakusa qualify for izindlu. Consumers must know once you have 5 unsecured credit on your credit profile, umuntu xa izakunika i-credit for an asset uzawubona ukuthi but wena u-consumer more credit on the unsecured way. There is no asset, so I can't trust you with a long term because you've always proved yourself to be either unfaithful or faithful ukubhadala only the short term. So sibonile on the rise from the credit ombud ukuthi unsecured credit ngoku has been granted by ama credit providers. Siboni ukuthi on the rise bazokunika 150,000 but unsecured, so they would give you the money instead of saying okay, if you're going to utilize this credit for ukubhadala a consolidation loan, let us then get the details of my credit providers ako sibhadale directly because you want to use it for consolidation. So manje bakunika 150,000 available. You can even apply online. The 150,000 appears now within your bank account. They won't follow. Wenze shopping things and then you forget and not consolidate your debt. So we have become stricter now in terms of giving out credit. If a consumer disclosure as credit provider, I'm going to use this credit for, as an example, an emergency loan. You as a credit provider must get that documentation to support ukuthi really I'm on an emergency, then bazokubhatalela directly. If it's consolidation, they have to get the details of your other credit providers and consolidate for you on your behalf instead of giving you the loan.
Because ngempela we're not responsible.
We're not.
Let's go back to this. If you can just quickly maybe analyze the behavior now of the service providers. And I'm asking you this because I want to ask you if they are desperate to give credit and therefore they skip the necessary assessment processes. I know you've touched on it a little bit, but last year there was a dealership, I won't mention its name. It said if customers could take, it was 100 cars. If you take these cars in November, you could, I could be wrong about the times and dates, but if you took this car basically last year, you're only going to start paying in June of 2021.
Yes.
So payment holidays. So
Yeah, payment holidays. So are they so desperate to give people credit that they're now giving us these deals that people are going to be like, what? In 2021, I'll be sorted. Let me quickly go get this car.
Yeah. I mean, we know that the market itself has become so saturated. So obviously providers are going to do whatever they can to try and earn their buck. At the end of the day, you have the heads of credit there, you have the consultants and the agents really waiting to earn commission. So they're going to think of ways of enticing consumers to come. And if I tell you, say, listen, buy your brand new car today in November, pay in February. I mean, from a legal point of view, there's nothing wrong with that because, I mean, they structure the agreement such that your payment starts in Feb, but you must remember, you're still being charged for interest for November, December, January, February. So it's incorporating or restructuring the agreement so that you pay.
They don't tell the consumer,
but which is why it goes to my next point, and something that I actually want to mention. We find a lot of consumers don't read the documents that they sign.
No, we're so happy to take delivery of anything and just go home.
Exactly. There's a reason why consumers are overcharged to a certain degrees because, I mean, systems, I mean, some of these systems are, they're IT systems. Some of them can obviously mess up. We have heard in the press not too long ago of quite reputable organizations, their accounts being messed up, double charging consumers, for example. So, I mean, as a consumer, you need to be prudent. On a monthly basis, look at your statement of account. Even though it doesn't take a rocket scientist to calculate the interest charge. You're not going to get to an exact figure, but know more or less what you're being charged on an annual basis. Know what your initiation fee is. Know what your cost of credit is. Know whether your cost of credit includes, for example, registration costs of the vehicle. Know whether it includes a club fee. Know whether it includes delivery and registration costs, as I mentioned. Because all of these things add up to what you ultimately are going to pay back. And the payment holiday, the only response that we tell our consumers, if they have to ask us, obviously, on these sort of issues, is that as a consumer, do a budget and say, listen, in March next year, I can't afford to pay this debt. In addition to the other expenses, the turkey I'm going to buy for Christmas, the trifle I'm going to buy for Christmas, the desserts. I mean, all of this cost adds up. You know, today, if you go to the shop today, and I mean, one simple stop at the shop for your daily buying, it's 500 and 600 bucks. I mean, if you 600 rands if you think about it. Now, all of that accumulates. So consumers' payment holidays, if I could say one thing, it's not illegal, but at the same time, be prudent to see whether you can afford it in the new year, because it is going to come back to bite you at some point.
Yo, uke waba nenkinga zama payment holiday bra abantu beza kuwena ukuthi ayi nako ke manje usufikile lo 6 months ebengumele kodwa dollar imali ayisangeni.
It happens quite often, you know, because now you think 6 months is far.
Yes, and you think you've got options, you're going to accumulate that money somewhere, you're going to move things around here.
And then when they reinstate the full installment plus the interest of that 6 months, you are in trouble. And this leads to the people who shorten the repayment period. If you have got a bond, this is a trend. If you have got a bond of 20 years and you decide to pay it over 10 years, be careful. We have seen lots of cases going to court.
And yes, it's
still happening till this day. Whereby you shorten the period, the system of the bank cannot calculate.
It doesn't calculate.
After 10 years, when you ask for a title deed, they say, sorry, we made a mistake. You still owe us 300,000.
Imagine that. All right. Mbukeli sake sayidingida-ke le ndaba yokuthi ama-bonds wakho mwakhokha fast, but uyanibona ubhuti Elias ukuthi make sure ukuthi even if you sign that agreement, make sure it's a court-approved agreement. Siyazi ukuthi kunama-tribunal nani. Make sure ukuthi there's a legal body there that is watching over wonke lawo ma-agreements. Ungahambe wena uyitshela ukuthi wenza into, you send an email. Make sure ukuthi kune-proof nayo yonke into ulandele, so that if they come back after 5 years when usuqedile ukukhokha bathi you owe us 300,000 uthi yazini ingazozidlalela na ama-receipts. We're coming back shortly. kanti siqhubeka-ke nondaba yethu yokuthi wena how are you going to become financially savvy this year wenze sure phela ukuthi singakubona usugijimela komashonisa usugijimela kobhuti Elias usuthi abakusize ngama-favor usugijimela kosisi Nosipho ugijimela koli ucela ukuthi hey mina engathi credit yami isinkulu usukhala nje wena usuyinto eyisono kanti ubuwazi ukuthi izikweleti zakho zimi kanjani nezimali zakho zimi kanjani. So basically what we're saying here is that we don't know what could happen tomorrow unless of course you've got a permanent contract, but jobs we've realized are not guaranteed in this industry, in this economy. So how does then one think around the fact that, you know what, whatever I have today might not be around tomorrow or in 6 months' time?
I think number one, if unesikoloto, let's just focus on that one. Unazo amatyala. You must keep up with the payments. Make sure ukuthi kunento kuthiwa credit life insurance. Iya ku statement sakho uyibonela credit life insurance i-premium yakhona iyatsalwa. The reason why ndithetha londo, in the event we are retrenched since nyani a job it's not guaranteed. In the case you are being dismissed, because that can also happen. In the case that you temporarily lose employment, that credit life insurance is there to ikubhatale iyakusolva izibhatala awabhatala amatyala akho ube uhlukana nawo under those circumstances. Secondly, I think what is best, what you can do is try man ikhona ne-recycling. You can try that to earn for isonga, just for isonga, because there are recycling companies that pick up ezo zinto. It will cover your bread that you don't need.
Daily things in Jama supplies.
Utilize e-laybys if you have to buy for school fees, impahla ye Christmas, impahla ye school for abantwana, winter, you can plan that e-laybys is corner. Credit you must utilize, you must know what your last resort that you will ever utilize credit. We do encourage our consumer to take credit, but you must have a reason why you are taking credit. Ungathathi nje just to spend on a daily basis. Yeah, ngibe muhle, buy a Brazilian, do some makeup session. Yes. Yes.
All right. So, but Elias, what is your view on the effectiveness of these bodies that we do have alongside the Consumer Protection Act? Have they been working for abantu osebenza nabo? And how are people receiving it? Are people wisening up to the fact that you do have leeway, you do have recourse, you don't necessarily have to lose your house, you don't necessarily have to lose your car? There are other ways that you can try and mitigate and try and actually solve the problem.
I would say yes and no, because those who go to these bodies get assisted. Okay. But those who don't go there for their own reasons, because first of all, yes, why don't you follow these processes that are there for you to protect you instead of losing everything? But what I can tell you is that the courts are warming up to the consumers. If the group providers do not hear you, they don't listen to you. If you go to court with your 3 months bank statements, your pay slips, your budget, and stand before the judge or magistrate and say, this is who I am. I can only afford to pay X amount. I can tell you 9 out of 10, the court is going to agree with you.
So singasabi the legal system ukuthi siba approach lama bodies, or even starting from the credit ombudsman no NCR to try and find solutions ukuthi what can I do if I'm in that situation?
The court, 99% of the court cases that went to high court, whereby the banks were repossessing the houses, we won those cases.
That's incredible.
On those grounds. Because first of all, the credit providers will lie to court. You stay in a clean house, which doesn't need a maintenance. Your house is worth 800,000 or 1 million rand. The credit provider gives the court the false reserve price. They say that your house is worth 200,000 because there's a lot of work to be done on that house. And you give the court the proof that they are lying in court. And then you as a consumer, you don't have to cough up a lot of money. You can go to court by yourself.
Okay.
All that we do, we just coach you, say, you go there to speak the truth, not the facts.
Okay.
Because you're not going to convince the judge. You tell the judge what is real. And he can see it for himself. And 9 out of 10 is going to agree with you.
You know, Lee, I mean, you also touched on these. I think it's important to just go over them again, those dispute resolution mechanisms that you have in place as, of course, the credit ombudsman, so that people don't feel that, you know, they need to be scared to approach you guys. What are those that are in place currently?
So first and foremost, we are a free of charge service. So I mean, we are a non-profit organization. We're there to assist the consumer. It's a non-litigation process.
What do they need? Do they need to bring proof of residence, all their documentation, basically?
Okay, basically, so the only requirement before approaching the office is that you have to first give the credit provider a chance to resolve it.
Okay.
So you need to contact the credit provider, and this forms part of the proactive approach. So we tell a consumer, an example, if you are retrenched tomorrow, because these are things you don't foresee, contact your credit providers before you contact your own family. Because, I mean, these are the people that are going to come after you for payments. And when you contact them, many credit providers, what they do is they tell you, listen, and you have retrenchment cover. So for 6 months, sometimes you are given leeway and stuff. So the process for us, give the credit provider or credit bureau, in the case of credit information, the chance to investigate the matter, get reference numbers, take down names of people you've spoken to, because as you're saying, records are key in order to having the matter resolved. 20 business days pass. If you're either not happy with the decision or, for example, you don't receive feedback, contact us directly. We have a free SMS service. It's 44786. So consumers can send us an SMS and we'll call them directly back.
Okay.
And we will call you. We will get the information from you. We'll log the case and immediately we'll get the ball rolling. Contact the credit providers and try to limit the negative impact that it can have on you financially. That is the purpose of this.
All right. Your closing words, like 2 seconds. And
Mabangoyiki ukuza kwimacandelo abazawunceda kubo. Mabangoyiki abathengi. 99% of cases nathi we've won for our consumers. The court systems have been lenient to our consumers. If ngoku nazi isikolo and you don't know what to do, debt review is there for you to utilize. Debt review nayo, you will see a debt counselor izakwazi ukuthi ihlise i-installment zakho ubhatale ngokuvumelwana kwakho. Ikhona nenye ke ngoku abo bangaqualify for i-debt review, sine debt intervention. It's only meant for low income earners ezi 7,500. So abathengi mabangoyiki.
Okay, wena but Elias uthi beze kuwena futhi bakufonele kodwa before kuba nzima, very quickly.
Yes. And then they must consider the issue of multiple sources of income.
Okay, so mbukeli kuyashiwo ke lapho ukuthi nawe zama phela ukuthi ubucosha udayisa plastic, recycle those things, try and get an additional income to cushion lo salary ozanayo, because awazi in this job insecurity space ukuthi how long you're going to have that job. Thank you so much to my guest. That was Lee Subrati from the Credit Ombudsman, Elias Shamatla, and of course Nosipho Zekishe, all joining us here, giving us tips as we kick off the year. Mbukela ngifuna ukuthi ngithi mengila sengibuyile in 2 weeks time nizobe ningikhalele Alisha sabengibise toll gate bangiphuca imoto Alisha in. So we want you guys to be, of course, financially savvy. Nazi futhi nokuthi there are alternative ways ukuthi if you find yourself in a situation that you were not prepared for, like you losing umsebenzi or you get retrenched and so forth, these are some of imgonyelo ekumele uyilandele, and bayasho these bodies are there for you. NCR, Credit Ombudsman, these are friendly bodies. Mbukeli eyakajalithi intokazi sesiligoqa kanjalo uhlelo ake sibe nama extra cash emaphaketheni this year, siperforme kahle, nisale kahle.